What's going on, y'all? Hopefully everybody having a great day. Good morning. It's a little after 8 o'clock in the morning. All right, so I woke up this morning. I took Major to school, and then I started getting Mercy ready for the day. Brushing her teeth, doing her hair, and I always sort of cruise through Google's news, and it recommended a song from Joyner Lucas and Jelly Roll. Joyner Lucas I'm familiar with. Jelly Roll, I know he makes music, and I seen a speech that he gave at Capitol Hill that was very impassioned, and it was in regards to addiction, right? Never heard any of his music. Joyner Lucas, I heard, a few songs of his. I like his music, but I'm not the music type of person. When I wake up in the morning, I'll put on a motivational speech or something like that. That's how I get my morning started, right? But for some reason, I decided to click on the video, and I started listening to the music. And very soon after that music started playing, that video, and I didn't see the visuals, I was just listening to it because I was doing Mercy's hair, just became overwhelmed with emotions. Literally for like the next hour, I couldn't stop crying. All I was thinking about was my baby sister. So for those of y'all that don't know, my little sister died from an overdose last year, right? It's just been a little over a year since she passed. Now, me and my sister, we were like best friends growing up. That was my best friend. She was the one when I was young and I wanted to be a boxer. She'd have to hold my pads for me or watch me shadow box, for an hour. And she'd try to get up and go out of the room because she was a little kid. We were both little kids. And she didn't want to see that shit. She probably wanted to play with dolls or something. But she would sit there and watch because her older brother, who she looked up to, was doing it, right? She would sit there and watch me. She'd always hype me up and be like, yeah, you're good, you're good. She was always like my biggest fan. Same thing when I was young and I thought I wanted to become a rapper, and I'd put on an instrumental and she would listen to me for hours, freestyling. She was my best friend. I was like so overbearingly protective of her. Because we have, I have other siblings, but me and my sister, her name is Chantel Joy Rodriguez. Me and her have the same mom and dad. Our other siblings, we have different fathers. Me and her have the same mom and dad. So I feel like we related to each other on a certain level. We had that certain connection, right? And after my mother passed in 2004, me and my sister Chantel, we both began to sink into addiction, right? We were both hurting. We didn't know how to identify or how to deal with our feelings, right? And we turned to drugs because drugs help numb the pain. They self-medicated against whatever we were feeling. We didn't really feel it. And we had these conversations. Because at first, I was very overprotective of her, so I would have never tolerated her using drugs. And she lived with me at this time, I would have never tolerated her using drugs. There was many times where I had to, she'd go missing for a couple days and I have to go and, run into a house and get her. And, a lot of shit like that I went through with my sister. But nonetheless, she was always like my biggest fan. one of my biggest supporters, and loved me, and we were always on the same page. Like, we could just look at each other and communicate without even speaking, you know. And those relationships, everybody's not blessed to have a relationship like that with somebody. So I was very blessed in that sense, you know. And then furthermore, that she was my sister. And I remember one of the times, you know, and I've told this story before, I remember one of the times where she started getting deep into her addiction. And she went missing, you know, and I found her. And I didn't understand addiction. You know, I was very much along the lines of this is just a choice. And even myself, I had an addiction, but I still didn't really understand it yet. It was very new to me. So I remember she goes missing, and I had put the word out to say, yo, if anybody sees my sister, please let me know. And a friend of mine seen her, and he told me, Frank, I left the back door to the house open, right? So I rushed over there, snuck in the house, through the back door, and I find her upstairs with 2 other girls, and they're all in the room getting high, right? One of the girls was her age, one of the girls was old enough to be her mother. And I snatched her out of that house, threw her in my car, and told her, yo, I'm taking you to treatment right now. And that's when I slowly started to learn, okay, that's not the way it works, right? We can't just pick somebody up off the street and say, yo, you're going to a program right now. You're going to a detox or rehab. Even if they were willing, that's not the way it works. You know, there's so much bureaucracy and paperwork, insurance and all that shit. So as I started to call around and try to find her a bed, I realized that this wasn't going to happen, right? So I got more frustrated and I got more angry. And then, like, a thought popped into my head. And I said, okay, where is she getting her drugs from, right? I dumped open her purse, and I seen a bundle of dope, and there was empty bags and stuff. And when I looked at the bags and looked at the stamp, it was my stamp. It was my dope. You know, my sister had learned to sort of break in my safe. Not even break in. She had to have like an extra key or something, because she would get in there and take money and take drugs. And I noticed stuff missing, you know, but at this time I was fully entrenched in the streets. I was selling a lot of drugs, so, you know, she could take 10 bundles or something. I'm not going to notice it gone. So at first I started thinking, okay, somebody sold her this. Somebody that, you know, that I supply sold her this. That's what I wanted to believe, right? I didn't want to believe that she got them firsthand from me, right? Even if I wasn't willing in the exchange, I didn't want to believe that. So I asked her, I said, yo, where'd you get this from? Who gave it to you? She was quiet, you know, and then I asked her again, and she told me she got it out of my safe. And what I felt, I was ashamed, I was upset, I was angry, I was guilty. I was so many different emotions. That was one of the first times that I had realized what I was doing. The death that I was dealing by selling drugs, right? And I thought, you know, I'd try to justify and say, well, I'm not really selling it to the specific customers. I'm supplying this person or this block, you know, all that bullshit that we try to do when we want to make something seem right. I tried all that. But at the end of the day, it came down to me supplying my sister with drugs. And I realized you're upset, you're angry, and you're feeling this way because it's your sister, right? But yesterday you didn't care because it was somebody else's sister, right? Somebody else's daughter, somebody else's mother, father, child, whatever it might be. I didn't care then. And that was what planted a seed of me always personalizing everything. Whenever I go to make a decision, I try to personalize it and be like, okay, if it was my family, if this was me, you know, I try to personalize everything that I do. And that was what planted the seed, you know. And she had, you know, she had lost her way so many times and would get clean for a little while and then lose her way, and she'd get pregnant and get clean and lose her way and then get on methadone and then, you know, abuse prescription pills. And it got to the point when I was in jail and there was a serial killer in Philly preying on the women in Kensington, and at this time my sister was in Kensington. He was the Kensington Strangler, and he was, you know, killing the girls in Kensington. And I just had this feeling in the pit of my stomach saying, one day I'm going to get the call and they're going to tell me that he's killed my sister. I mentally, emotionally prepared myself for that day to get that call. Thank God it never came, right? So that left me hope. So when I came home from jail, you know, numerous times I would try to get with her and tell her, look, come on, let's get you clean. This ain't you, you know. And it just never worked out that way until last year. Rachel was at work and my daughter Brooke, Rachel must have called home and asked. It was a Friday night. My daughter Rachel was at work. She must have called my daughter Brooke and said, yo, is Frank up? Okay. And I think she let him know. I think she let my daughter know, look, his sister just passed away. I'm about to leave work and come home. Because my daughter, she just came in and gave me a hug and told me she loved me, and it was sort of out of the blue, right? And then a half an hour later, Rachel walks into the room and tells me that they found my sister's body. And as much as I knew that day was coming, and I tried to prepare for it, there was no amount of preparation that could prepare me for that. And hearing that song this morning just made me think of, you know, my sister and the entire situation. That I think about also about everybody else, all the people that we've seen come and go on this channel, all the people that I know that have passed, you know, because of addiction. I hate it. I 100% hate addiction. Sorry for such a somber, depressing video. I needed a vent and to speak to somebody. So thank you guys for being that ear. Remember to stay kind, loving, and patient. Thank you. Stay blessed, y'all.